I want to talk about this today. The Big Mo, momentum. So the Big Mo was a household phrase among sports fans in the 1960s. It's when people finally realized that when a team had momentum, there was something special about that. They were hard to stop. And the team who didn't have the momentum, they kind of were down on their luck, and they had momentum in the opposite direction. It became like a big thing in sports, the Big Mo. The phrase kind of wore out. Maybe it was overused or something in the 60s, but it came back into politics. So throughout the 80s and 90s, and even today, it's used in politics. When somebody has a big lead in the polls or whatever that is, they got the Big Mo on their side. And guys, I'll tell you, there is nothing like the Big Mo. Momentum is a powerful force. As you guys know, Isaac Newton was sitting under a tree. Supposedly, I've actually stood under the same tree on Cambridge campus. Isn't that right, Brandon? Yes? And supposedly the same tree. Yeah, what is it, 250 years old? But anyway, supposedly his apple fell on his head, right? And what's his first law of motion?
What goes up?
Nope, that's close. Yes. Object in motion stays in motion. The definition of momentum. Things with momentum are hard to stop. So, have you felt it? When in your life have you felt momentum? And tell me about it. Somebody tell me what it feels like and what was the situation when you had momentum. Yes?
Very big time in my life for momentum. First month of summer this year.
Mm-hmm.
This year was the biggest weeks I've ever done, 4 weeks in a row. It was like
Yep.
15, 16, 17. That was...
And after a week of 17, how hard is it to do another one? Because it's on your side. Yeah. When's the easiest time to make a sale? Right after. That's momentum, right? Anybody else? When's a time in your life when you've had momentum? Has anybody had momentum in recruiting? You felt that? Joey.
When I played football and darts. Beat the shit out of me.
Hey.
I just can't miss.
You know what? We saw momentum last night with Drew. He had to hit that bullseye. He had to hit that bullseye to come back and tie it. And at that point, I mean, it's all on his side. For that last shot, the momentum is on his side, and that's a big deal. You guys are having Apple problems. You need me to bring my PC in? All right, it worked out. Okay, so you've seen this in sports. And I don't think you can see it better in sports, in my opinion. I'm not a huge sports expert by any means, but I like watching it in basketball because it's such a fast game. When a team goes on a run, you can see that shift, and they're like unstoppable, and it's like the other team, it's like they forgot how to play basketball. It really is. And what do they do when that happens? What happens? Every time. Timeout. Every time. Reset, get your feet on the ground, and rebuild. What are they rebuilding? How do they do that?
They got to put together some plays.
Where does it start, guys? They're rebuilding their belief. When they come back to the huddle, their feet are on the ground, their head's clear, and their coach talks some sense into them. They have a time to take a breath. And even a little bit of time, the other team maybe doesn't feel the magic quite as much. The other team feels like maybe we lost a little bit of that momentum by taking this break and clearing our heads. That happens. How does belief, where does that come into this equation? How does belief affect action? How does belief affect action? Somebody.
You can't be deterred. If you have true belief in something, you're not going to be derailed. You're going to move forward towards where your belief takes you.
So let's say the action is working out first thing in the morning when you wake up. How many people do that every single day? A few. How many people want to or think they're going to or whatever? And so where is the disconnect between the belief and the action? I guarantee if Brett does it every day, he just believes it's going to happen every day. There's just no question. He believes it. Yes. So I believe there's a cycle. Belief causes action. Action, of course, leads to results. And results, what do? They cause more belief, stronger belief, more serious belief. And then the action becomes that much easier, produces more result, creates belief, and it becomes a cycle we know as momentum. And it happens everywhere in our lives. But we're talking about personal momentum here. We're talking about what it takes to get momentum in my life. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of little tricks and little things. I felt this. I was talking to Kami about this. I felt this just last week. Early last week, I hadn't been working out as much as I wanted. Actually, excuse me, it's 2 weeks ago. I hadn't been working out as much as I wanted to, and I'd get up in the morning, and I would get busy. And my phone would start ringing, and I'd sit on my back porch, and I'd be taking phone calls, and I'd be in my workout clothes, and it just would kind of pass me by, and I'd have to go into the office, and I missed the opportunity. Anybody ever had that happen? I'm sure you guys do. So you know what I did? 2 weeks ago on a Monday morning, I woke up, and I drank like a load of pre-workout. It's the first thing I didn't know if I was going to work out or not, but I was going to drink that stuff. And man, I was just like tingling all over. My face is tingling. And I sit down and look at my phone. I'm like, I can't do this. I got to go. And I went downstairs and I worked out. It was a great workout. I killed it. The pre-workout just gets you all going. And then, you know what I did after that? I went out and I shot my bow real quick, which I like to do every day. I went straight into work and I had one of the most productive days of work I've had in the longest time. I had this happen. And you know what that caused? The very next day, the first thing I did when I woke up in the morning, I drank that pre-workout and boom, action, results, belief, and I just got in the cycle. And the last couple of weeks have been awesome. I have been so productive. I'm doing more, like I'm working out and I'm shooting my bow every morning, but then I'm getting 5 times as much done at work on top of that. Somehow I'm using more time doing something else and it's causing more results. What do you guys do in your lives to affect belief? Does anybody have any tricks? Yeah.
Self-affirmations.
Okay.
To yourself certain things.
Yep.
Over and over again.
Good. I like it.
I think you celebrate winning. That's what I like a lot about the program that Brett's doing with bringing in reps and having them apprentice, is they're able to see Brett come in and close, and they can celebrate a victory over
Sure.
and over. It builds their
They can see it. That's like, when you're in a funk or something selling, or you got a first year up in a funk, have them watch somebody else sell. Build that belief system. That's why somebody in the office doing 15 to 20 a week changes the office dramatically, because he builds a belief system. I do all kinds of little things. I got lucky shirts. This belt buckle that I wear, you guys may snicker at it. I was given this by the Boone and Crockett Club. Whenever I see this, whenever I put on, whenever I feel it, the words pop into my head. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. I killed the number 2 stone sheep in the world with a bow, largest sheep killed in the Yukon in 50 years with any weapon, including rifles. The most impossible thing I've ever dreamed of. And it happened to me. And anything's possible. So I put it on when I want to accomplish anything. And it's like a trigger to me. And I feel invincible. Do those things. Have superstitions. Have little rituals. Build habits. Put yourself in the place. Remember your last victory. Put yourself there. Whatever it is, these are little tricks. But that's not what we're talking about today. That's all personal momentum. And you know what, guys? Personal momentum is very straightforward. It's not that hard. You can build it based on a few tricks. You can just start doing it. You can drink a pre-workout and 3 days later, you have a great cycle of personal momentum because you control 100% and the results are immediate. However, organizational momentum is different. Why is that? And what is organizational momentum?
everybody rowing in the same direction.
And who is everybody, Brett, for you? Your region, your organization. So to move your organization in a direction, to give them momentum, what does that take? And how does that happen?
It starts with belief just the same. You have to believe you can do it together.
Okay. You have to build a belief system for them.
And then create an action plan and become a habit, and then you get results from that.
Okay. And at what point does this just start to move on its own? You guys ever had your car die and you have to push it out of an intersection or something? Who was it that was behind me? Nick Ellisor. That was so funny. One time I'm driving like this Porsche Panamera, like this, whatever, $150,000 car. And I'm stopped at this stop sign and I run out of gas. And that's like, okay, it's one thing to run out of gas in a beater, but like, I'm like, oh my gosh, here I'm in this fancy car that, like, I don't even feel comfortable in anyway. And I run out of gas. There's this huge line of people behind me waiting to get through this light. And I look in my mirror, and this guy is laughing at me in my rearview mirror. And we were doing one of these events. And I get out of the car to apologize to him and tell him what's up. And it happens to be Nick Ellisor. I'm like, Nick, don't tell anybody about this, man. And so we get out and we push my car. But you know when you push a car, and it's so hard to move it that first inch or two, but then what happens? The momentum. It starts to work, and then pretty soon you're running. You know, you're pushing this car, and all the weight's moving that way. But it's hard to get moving. At what point does that happen in an organization, and how does that happen?
Action.
Well, that's a step, yeah. So your guys take action. Your guys have results, and they start to build a belief. But how do you make sure that keeps happening? You do. And so, is it possible that your personal momentum could feed the organizational momentum? Right? But your personal momentum is immediate. It happens right away. You can control. You guys could decide tomorrow you're going to have personal momentum and you could have the best week of your life. Hands down, everybody in this room can decide that. But you can't decide that for your organization and not have it happen tomorrow. How long would it take you to get organizational momentum? Weeks, months, really, years for true, perpetual momentum, critical mass that you can't stop. It becomes a machine on its own, recruiting and building and all of these things. Nobody in this company is there yet, but we could get there. But the critical thing is, how long do you have to exercise personal momentum before it moves your organization, before you move that car the first couple inches and it starts to roll on its own and the weight of the car is carrying it across the surface? How long are you willing to push your personal momentum to make that happen? So if we were to compare the two, personal momentum, it's quick to get. OrgMo, it's delayed. It doesn't happen right away. You have to keep on it. This is 100% in your control. What about this one?
I think it is.
You think it's 100%? I mean, slavery was outlawed a long time ago, right? You got people in your organization that have minds of their own, Jeremy. Are you sure it's in your control?
You either help change their belief or you find new people.
Okay, I agree. It's 100% in your control in time. It's not as immediate, but ultimately it is 100% in your control. Personal Mo requires some vision. What's vision? What's that?
End result.
Yeah, seeing the future. Vision it's exactly what the word says, vision. It's seeing the future. Where do I want to be? I see myself as X. I'm not that today, but I will be that. And so personal Mo, like, you just start making that happen, and there is some vision required. But over here, it requires a lot of vision. It takes a lot of vision, and it takes a lot of grinding with consistent personal momentum to get that car moving down the road. When you read Good to Great, you'll read about the flywheel, the giant flywheel that you start to push. Imagine this huge, heavy flywheel rotating on a pivot in the middle. And as you push it, it barely moves, but you get all the hands pushing it, and you faster and faster and faster to the point where it's revolving at a very high RPM, and you couldn't stop it if you wanted to. You'd get hurt if you tried to stop it. That's what organizational momentum is, and that's why it takes a long time. To get personal momentum, literally, you could drink a pre-workout and start it. But this takes some time, some vision. Easy to stop. Personal momentum, since you're the only one involved, you can stop it just as easily as you started it, which is part of our problem, right? It's too easy to start, too easy to stop. So maybe that's why we're not consistent. What about org momentum? Can you stop it as easily? Which is the great part about it. If you actually get it moving, it's not necessarily going to slow down with some small change or some little, you could have a bad day. You could personally have a bad day. It doesn't even affect your organization a little bit. But if you have a bad day in your personal Mo, well, I mean, yeah, it might send you in a funk. It's hard to stop. Personal momentum is a simple return. What do I mean by that? What's a simple return? We've been talking about this. Simple return. A non-leveraged return, right? Linear return. Yeah, because it's just me. I'm the only guy working or gaining from my personal momentum. But guess what? The org momentum is a leveraged return. And that is ultimately what we're after. So guys, I invite you to create momentum in your organizations. And based on what I said, what's the key to that? What's the key to creating momentum in your organization? One thing. I've said it several times. Belief, okay. That's one of the three things. Your own momentum. If you personally gain momentum, if you say, I'm going to recruit, I'm going to leverage my assets, I'm going to do this, and you go out and do that for months on end, and you do not stop, and you are relentless, and you have vision, you will create organizational momentum. And you know what, guys? I've actually seen it take years. Haven't I, Nick? Here's a guy who grinds away year after year and continues to gain momentum every single year. Every year. And he's not the only one. So many people in this room do that. I just like to pick on him because he was our fastest growing organization this year. So, I invite you to create organizational momentum. You must have personal momentum for a sustained period of time. Sustained period of time. I'm talking weeks, I'm talking months, I'm talking years. And if you do that, you will realize leveraged returns and you will make a lot of money. And you will hopefully fulfill what Brandon talked about is your why, your core values, the reason why you do this in your heart, which has to be at the core of all of this. And thank you, everybody. That's all we got.